on Simo and Goss for breakfast. Coach's Call.
Right here, thanks to Hungry Jack's, the all-new eggs Benny-Oni Hungry Jack's, and thanks for the coffee this morning. It's actually elite areas today, though. Whoever made this today.
Hungry Jack's.
Thank you.
Carlisle.
Thank you, Jack. All righty, one of yours?
Maybe.
All righty, let's go to the round. Let's go all the way back to Thursday.
Yeah.
It took a while to shake them off, didn't they, Brisbane?
Yeah,
and
well,
Essendon?
there's only 7 games this weekend, so it'll put you out of your misery pretty quickly. But, I mean, Brisbane play away. I don't know, like you said earlier, they're sort of just going, but they're winning. And it was an 18-point win in the end, and they did take a while to shake them. And I thought Essendon would have to change the way they play because of the injuries and the lack of tools. But they changed in a way that was different than I thought. They went more, hey, let's go. Let's run at this side and use a bit of shape in handball. So uncontested marks, Brisbane have 125 to Essendon 66. So you see complete contrast in styles of play, and it worked pretty well for Essendon. They walk away a bit like West Coast last night with some real positivity. McCluggage 41 possessions, 17 contested, 600 metres game, 12 score involvements in the end. He was probably the difference.
That he was. So let's now turn our attention to the game that, well, many believe was going to be the game of the round. It was a master class by Collingwood. Jamie Elliott with 5 goals, Myercheck with 4 as well. And apart from Ginnivan, there wasn't too many positives coming out of the Hawthorn camp. No,
and yeah, look, there's some issues there at Hawthorn. They've lost 3 in a row, and how does Mitchell handle that as a young coach? He's probably in his 4th year in. It's starting to build the years. I think if you do your research on the last time, they won a final last year. So they've won one final since 2015, I think. So it hasn't been quick. Everyone says it's been a quick rise, but it takes time. So, yeah, they'd be disappointed. They've dropped away in their form. The confidence that Hawthorn exude sometimes comes with expressing yourself, being yourself. It's hard to do that when you're not winning. So, yeah, the tackle count's something that a lot of people have spoken about over the weekend, but really it's the game in the front half. They can't get the ball played in the front half anymore, and that's what they were really strong at. They've gone from number 1 in a lot of things last year to 6th or 7th, so it's not diabolical. But, for example, on the weekend, they've had, how many kick-ins did they have? They had 6 or 7 kick-ins, and they've conceded 5 goals. So you kick the ball in, it turns over, goal over your head. That's happened 5 times, which is, I've never seen that.
Well, who's the kicker?
Well, it's not necessarily the kicker. It's, when you kick the ball in, how you defend behind that kick sometimes. Yep. But, yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you who took all the kick-ins. But, yeah, there's some real issues there. Got some work to do. It's carrot versus the stick, and I suspect the sticks come out. Sam.
Yeah, well, Jack Ginnivan did speak post-game about the mouth guards as well. I want to hear from Craig McRae, though, because Collingwood are, I think, the standout team. Here's Craig McRae.
Plus 44 tackles, the most we've ever had as a differential in the history of our footy club, in the history of our footy club. That one, we're going to keep the game where we want it to be, and then we put enormous pressure on when we need to. So keeping a really potent opposition to 55 points or something like that. Absolutely brilliant performance, because this is a real sign of our growth as a club. So VFL play Box Hill tomorrow. We've got guys debut for our footy club. If you're not doing anything, bring the kids down and we'll celebrate those young lads playing Collingwood for the first time.
So that's Craig McRae in the room for his playing group.
Yeah, well, that didn't blow me away, but the way they play and the system they play is in really good order with a mature group. Older players playing well, like Elliott. How old is he? He's over 30.
Yeah, he's had a lot of problems over the journey with
side bottom. I thought side bottom was done a couple of years ago. So the what they've done on field with the different gears they play, but at the same time they're very, very predictable, and predictability and fundamentals. As much as you can have style of play and strategy and talent, but they've just got the game plan's down pat. The question for you: are they peaking too early?
No.
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 Okay.
They brought in 5. And I looked at Ed Allen, and I know Scotty was thinking Ed Allen was going to have a good year. Ed Allen just looks like they've just sort of got him in there. They've eased him in there. He's not a hardcore midfield. He's running off halfback. They look comfortable. I reckon they've got a great blend. You talk about the experience, but I reckon their youth is still good to look at as well, even though they're old.
Yeah. Well, I think they'll hit a flat spot. There you go.
Do you?
Yeah, I think it's hard to. It's around. They've won 3 in a row.
Do you think they have to hit a flat spot?
I just think it's inevitable. You can't, I mean, I know Hawthorn, for example, are they just in a flat spot? And we're going to over-catastrophise everything with Hawthorn, and then they might win the next 5 in a row. So
do you think we'd over-catastrophise everything with Hawthorn?
Is catastrophise a word?
It's a good word. You use it a bit.
I know.
And I like
don't know
it.
if I've
No, I
made it
like
up
it.
or
I'm a
not.
fan. Well, it's about time you brought something to the media table with some flair. Now, my attitude to that is a lot of people are, I wouldn't say rejoicing Hawthorn's tumble.
But you are. You're pretty happy about it.
Well, there's a touch of arrogance about them, and I think they've achieved, and no disrespect to them, but they went hard in their recruiting for their key backs. It hasn't worked for them. Sicily is just going.
How's Barras going?
No, he's on the weekend they made out that he'd taken 5 intercept marks, but it's not the same Tom Barras that played at West Coast. Not yet.
Not yet. 12 games in. Sicily's, I think he's been affected by the other talls.
They're too big down back.
Maybe, yeah, which I think the debate over pre-season is he going to play forward now they've got those two talls.
He's the captain too. He looks
I don't know if he's feeling sorry for himself or he's feeling the pressure of leadership. So that's a coachable moment to get him back into form and feel good about himself because I think he's a reflection of the side. So, yeah, and the old flipping from forward to back, it looked like a master. We say masterclass a lot, don't we?
Do you think he needs to settle on a position for him to get his confidence
has he?
back?
I don't know if he
Or do you think Sicily goes forward and maybe Marby Troll and or Gunston go out?
We were talking early in the year about how well he adapts to, I'll just play anywhere, I'll just do what I need to do. That's just fallen from grace pretty quick, hasn't it? Like that was a real strength that, okay, the game's on the line, we need something different. Sis, you do this. To the point where they tried it with Barras against West Coast, which we haven't seen since. But yeah, I think when things fall away and you do those type of things, they're the big things that fall away with form sometimes.
Catastrophise is a word. It's view or present a situation as considerably worse than it actually is. So
Great.
good word.
Okay.
No, it's a good
Thank
word. Someone must have used it for you to latch onto it. There's no way you could have brought that up yourself. Whackity whack whack. Hey,
I do butcher the English language.
We're about to go to do Gold Coast and Fremantle, 11-point win at People's First Stadium. But I want to read this from Susan. I wonder if Simo's little flybys, I think she means drive-bys, at the Dockers are done consciously or subconsciously. He's probably unaware of how it sounds across the airways. We love Vossi's stuck-out chest. Do better, Simo. Lol. There's a lol there.
Okay. Yeah, it's read between the lines. I think he puffs it out a bit too much.
Yeah, we think he does too. But he's good
who he is.
His energy.
I think he wears his heart on his sleeve, so it's I don't think he means to do it, but
And Tommy's up in Broome, and I've been following his journey. I think he might have. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, who's a mad docker and he absolutely treats me with disdain.
Right. Is that where you're staying when you go up there?
I'm going nowhere near Tom, but Tom is from down in the.
Maybe you can catch up.
Tom
Cable Beach Resort is where Gossip's staying.
There's no chance Tom is going to be at Cable Beach. He would be serious backpacking somewhere.
He might own it.
Well, he. I just want to say this. I'm pretty sure he drove to Broome for a weekend. Drove. 2 days. 2 days to drive.
Come on, we're drifting.
All righty. What did you make of the Gold Coast Fremantle? I thought gutsy. One of their true gutsy performances over the last couple of years by 11 points over Gold Coast.
You'd like Dimmer to actually praise the opposition a little bit more than he does sometimes because I thought it was more about Fremantle this week and the way they started. Dimmer did mention 14 turnovers in the front half in the first quarter, and I thought it was on the back of Fremantle as much as there was a few slips of handballs and the weather sort of kicked in, which I think suited the Dockers more, which is a surprise because they're just not used to playing in the wet. But they handled it really well. Their style of play handles those conditions. I thought we saw that against who was wet. It was wet over here a few weeks ago. Was it Port? Mm-hmm. I can't remember, but they seem to handle the weather better when it's a bit slippery and. Yeah, they just won in an honest way, and that's the only way you can win in the wet.
They led for 109 of 122 minutes.
Yeah, it was never really comfortable, but yeah, the ability to start the way they did, their leaders have to play well. There's no doubt about that. But they lost the clearances by 7, and I often think if they win the clearances, that's the trigger to win the game. So I think there's more depth developing than just the clearance positioning battle. I think they've got a couple of little layers they've worked on where it's a front half game for them. It's a front half game. They've had 28 turnovers in the front half and they've kicked 6 goals too.
Damien Hardwick had this to say post-match.
You know, we gave up, I think, 4.5 turnovers in the first quarter. We just couldn't move the ball, but a lot of those were on the back of our what we call giveaways, which are unforced skill errors, and it was quite frustrating because generally our guys are pretty good in those situations. But case in point was probably the Joel Jeffrey handball straight to the opposition, which ends up in a goal. And in high pressure games, it wasn't Joel's fault. He's been outstanding this year, but that's probably the game in itself. That first quarter was a reflection of that.
Yeah. Anyway, Bolton's he's worked in this season, hasn't he? Took a while to adjust to a different system and a new way of playing and finding his rhythm, and the pinch hitting on balls benefited him. And he's delivering now, isn't he?
Very much so. He's been exciting in the last month. Can I ask you then, and we touched on it when we opened the show, but we've got a new audience after 7 o'clock. We talked about the criticism that came towards Justin Longmuir in this studio from Scotty, and Witho was a bit surprised as well in selection when they brought Fife and Darcy into the same lineup.
I spoke about this on Saturday on Crunch Time. They thought it was a big week for Gold Coast, and I said no. I thought it was a big week for Fremantle and Justin in particular, because he's doubled down. No, I'm playing Darcy. I'm not going to listen to the rhetoric, because sometimes that comes into your thinking, if I do this and it doesn't work. So he's gone, no, we'll do this. We'll do it our way. We'll play Fife and we'll play him as a sub. There's a bye after this, so there's method to the madness. And we'll back in what we've been training for all pre-season. When they're together, we like them. And the notion that Jackson needs to play ruck and ruck only, he's been pushing that a little bit himself, Jackson, hasn't he? There's a few press conferences where, I like playing here. It's where I play my best game. But he looked pretty good on ball, which I didn't think would work. I thought he gets lost in transition. Okay, in the stoppages. But if he's getting 6 or 7 clearances and 20-plus possessions, and Darcy can help out at times in the ruck, it worked on the weekend. So
will
well
it
done
be
to him.
horses for courses, though, in that situation where...
That's the other thing. Like, Gold Coast played 2 rucks on the weekend.
And they're lumbering rucks, though. Moyle and
but they're
Witts.
top 4.
I agree with you, but what I'm saying is there will be a game where the opposition ruckman is a ruckman and a pinch hitter, but they are two genuine
like a Gawn.
rucks. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's when the decision is...
You might not need Darcy.
Well, it might be... That's a real advantage, where you can double team someone and make it work. So
Voss can be the rucker.
Yeah, you could do that, absolutely. But that's not West Coast. That's not Fremantle's way. If their way is to play 2 rucks and they know it can work because they've got Jackson who can play on ball, then it might be just a point of difference. That we don't all have to be the same, do we? Do we have to be the same?
No, we don't. A lot of text coming in. Paul from the Gold Coast just back on Hawthorn. He reckons he's celebrating the 100% Hawthorn failures because they're arrogant and cocky. Thank you, Tommy, giving me your schedule about what you're going to be doing next week. I'll try and avoid you like the plague. As a Freo fan,
You're on the camels?
No.
You're doing the camels? I could see you riding a camel.
No interest.
Down Main Street?
No interest. I rode an elephant called Happy in Bali once. It was the most terrifying moment of my life. Anyway, as a Freo fan... There's so many lines there. As a Freo fan, I love what Vossi brings. He tackles and brings energy.
Yes, he does.
His goal kicking has improved. Keep pumping out the chest, Vossi. Chest in or out, I don't care. 7 tackles and 3 goals. Take it to the bank.
Spot on.
110 minutes in front, Richmond. And at one stage, at the 17-minute mark of the third quarter, they led by 34 points. GWS win.
Yeah, learning how to win's hard. You're coming from where Richmond have come from, albeit it's only been a couple of years. It's not like it's been 5 or 6 years down the bottom. So, yeah, look, it kept the Giants, like if they had dropped that, a lot of Fremantle supporters would have been barracking hard for the Richmond win because they feel like they're on the edge of failure, the Giants at the moment. Their midfield's getting smashed. They're minus 11 at centre bounces. So for a team that relies on the midfield dominance and the tsunami and all that sort of stuff, they're getting annihilated because Richmond are one of the bottom sides at centre bounce clearances. So to be minus 11 and minus 700 metres gained from clearances is a real alarm bells for Richmond, for the Giants. So, but to come back and Ward speaks to the team at 3/4 time. That's emotional.
How good was that?
Well, it was good and sad at the same time, and that's triggered a performance in the last quarter where they got the job done. So really, really lucky to get away with that.
Adam Kingsley, we're led to believe, gave one of the all-time big cooks that everyone could hear inside the ground because they don't have a huge audience, of course, so everyone around. Anyway, here's Adam Kingsley post-match. Here's Adam Kingsley post-match.
Adam, does it feel like you got away with one there?
Yeah, it certainly does. We didn't deserve to win that game in the end, and I think what good teams do is they win the games that they don't necessarily deserve to win. We're aspiring to be a good team. We're still a work in progress with that, and at times tonight it didn't feel like that, but I thought Richmond were really good.
I almost, and they had a shot of Adam Uze in the box. He actually looked like he was in tears. He looked like there were tears in his eyes of thinking, how hard can we work and not get the points? But it's not about is it about the wins and losses?
It is. It's always about
really?
the wins. Yeah. I've said both on occasions, but they had 61 inside 50s to 50.
Yep.
So they had a dominant performance, and Presti's come back and had 31 possessions, which I didn't think was in him. Just hope he can keep his body together. It shows you what happens, though, when you get some of your leaders back. And they got several experienced players back on the side. And when they're all there with, the Velostons and the Nankervis and the Presties and the Hoppers and Tarantos, it actually is not as young as you think.
We might take a break and come back. It's 7:20. We've got 3 more games to dissect. Sydney and Adelaide, 90-point win for Adelaide. Dean Cox has got some work to do there. A masterclass from Ross again. He produced a 28-point win over Melbourne.
They got bigger fish to fry.
And Geelong, 43 points, 4 goals in the last quarter from Jeremy Cameron was the difference. We'll come back. We're doing this thanks to the coach's call, thanks to Hungry Jack's. Craving something fancy on the fly? Hungry Jack's has you covered with our brand new Eggs Benny. Hey, a round of applause for our wonderful friends at Nutrimate. Get some Nutrimate into your furry mate. It's the chicken that ours just about. It's not chicken. The chicken for a shiny coat and healthy teeth and gums. Get some Nutrimate into your furry mate.
You do a good job of pumping up the sponsors, don't you?
Yeah, well, hey.
Well done.
They pay for us.
Especially when you get the contra. Hey, how do you think the...
I want to pump up someone.
No, we use it. We eat it.
Tom Cole.
As a family. What do you think of the WA Day jumpers?
Loved them.
Did you?
The Eagles
How
won
did the Fremantle supporters feel?
They weren't here.
Well, let's get a few texts going through. How do you feel about
West Coast having
representing WA?
Oh, well, they were. It was a WA Day fixture.
I get that. I'm with you. I love the jumper.
I
don't know if Pav was pumped about it.
Oh, really? No. He thought it was unfair to take hold of the WA colours.
I don't know.
Really?
A bit sensitive.
Yeah. Oh, well, sleep at the wheel. I am WA. I think Fremantle had a chance if they wanted to wear it.
I think Fremantle owns the... No, they own the themed rounds out of West Coast, and they got Anzac Day stitched up.
Correct.
And they've done a great job with it.
Yep.
And there's another one they've got that I think...
They've got Starlight Foundation Day. They do a great job.
Yeah, that's a great cause, but that's a Fremantle thing. But there's another thing that... if they do get the Indigenous round game, it's the vanilla game.
Yep.
If they can get that every second year too, I think they're actually got a few themed rounds over West Coast.
They can have the non-premiership cup club round.
Oh, come on, Ross. I like it, but it wasn't necessary. But yeah, look,
Tom Cole.
What about him?
Round of applause. He was good. He had one moment.
He's always good.
No, he's been sadly out of form, but let me tell you, the last couple of weeks, loved what Tom Cole has brought to the team. Loved it.
I thought Bo Allen was okay when he came on as well. So what Coley does, which you don't see, is he defends 2 players all the time. He's got the ability, and it's really hard to even describe it. He's got the ability to position himself with this visual delay. Geelong will look up the ground, and there's a spare player, and Coley's got this ability to defend 2. He's the best I've ever seen at reading the cues. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, that's not ball in hand. It's not his age or his ankle. It's just his ability to work with other people and leverage. It's a really difficult thing to explain, but he does it so well. And that's why he's still playing.
Yeah, well, he was very good yesterday. Thanks to Nutrimate. I'm giving him a round of applause for his outstanding work. And he does have a shiny coat and healthy teeth and gums as well. Thanks to your furry,
like
mate.
A border collie. That's what he's like. That's how he plays.
One game before we take the news, and that is Sydney and Adelaide. I want to play Matthew Nick's post-game after they won by 90.
No, it was a great team effort, wasn't it? I thought it was a really balanced performance. Yeah, we knew Sydney would come out hard, and we had to match that, and I thought our guys did a fantastic job. The way we started the game, just really pressured them as much as possible. and then we're able to get the game on our terms, and it was a really even, balanced performance across the board.
They smashed them.
Yeah, I don't listen to the winning press
I
conference.
know you don't, but sometimes it's a positive to have it something like that. We'll hear from Coxie after 7:30.
We will, but, that game was...
Are they real Adelaide?
I think they are, yeah. I think they had a bad year last year. I think last year was really disappointing. They were all tracking, and I've said this before on the show, of rebuilding sides and what you have to do to go from 18th at something to 15th to 10th to top 4, and they were on that trajectory. And then last year, they just, for whatever reason, they slipped, and they've gone back to now where I thought they'd be. And yeah, I don't think we saw the Sydney one coming as much as we saw Adelaide, but some of the numbers weren't vastly different except for the inside 50s. It was 45 inside 50s to 70. So that's a smashing. And scores off turnovers, 3 goals to Sydney and 14 to Adelaide. They've had 39 forward half turnovers, Goss. Now, I see the eyes glazing over. But 39's a lot. That's you got to get it in there. Sydney get it, turn it over.
They've got a weak forward line, mate. They've got a very weak forward. They've got no power up forward. Logan McDonald's not there, and he's not going to... I don't think he's the...
So this is where you were glazed up. This is going into Adelaide's forward line.
Oh, yeah.
Am I talking to Nikki?
Oh!
Anyway, so it goes into Nikki's my wife, by the way, at the moment. So it goes into
love, we're sliding down the
goes
driveway.
into Adelaide's forward line, right? So where it's drifting, like this show, is Sydney's ball movement in the back half. They can't get out of their D15. You're going red for.
I hope she's not listening. I really do. That'd be the end of her. That would be the end of her.
She's fine.
All righty, let's keep going. Thanks to Bard, thanks to our team at Howie Jacks, because we've got Mark Duffield coming in shortly. Melbourne, they were off. 7 goals, 21. They lost to St Kilda by 28 points. They were challenged the Saints, but they hung on.
It's the third game in a row they've sold to play up there and lost, is what I heard over the weekend. And I didn't see a lot of this game. I think we were in transit a little bit yesterday preparing for West Coast. But 7 goals, 21. Were they easy shots?
Yeah.
Were they?
Yeah. They had plenty of opportunities.
Yeah. Look, I've never been really sold on Melbourne. I still think they need their best players to dominate. They've still got 14 and 15 premiership players. I'm worried about Melbourne in the next couple of years with Tassie coming in, what they do. They've got good kids coming through, but they still rely on the top 5, like a lot of teams do. But I know they put some work into Pickett, and he got frustrated, and he had a poorish type of game, and that's sort of where the game ended. And inside 50s have had 57 inside 50s to 40, St Kilda. So one that's got away, and they can't afford for that to happen too much. So the question from this game, and every game, it's like, who's this game more about? Is it more about Melbourne or the Saints? And I suspect it's more about Melbourne on the weekend.
Let's hear, though. I know you don't like hearing from the winning coach, but we need some words of wisdom from Ross. See how he reflected on a 28-point win in Alice.
We've been really working hard on our football, and I said it pre-game on 7, I think it was, and Fox, just about the areas been working on, which has been our ball use and not getting hammed, skinny, and all those things. So it's easy to talk about. We worked hard on it. I thought we executed it today. I thought we were a bit harder today in the centre square bounces where they're strong, and we really stood up in that area of the ground, and it really helped us. So, yeah, I was pleased.
There you go. Ross Lyon, he was pleased.
Yeah, well, they've against the odds, really. They've been in poor form. They lost to West Coast, obviously, a few weeks ago, and obviously Gold Coast last week. So to go up there and get a win, you got to tip your hat to them. They've still... does Ross get the best out of his side is the question. From a coaching point of view, does he get the best out of a team? And for the most part, he does. So 17-14, 116 Geelong over West Coast 11-7, 73 in the end, 43 points. They were within a goal at one stage and could have been within a point, but the game got turned on its head from about the 10-minute mark of the last quarter. Well, I think like all of us were worried in the first quarter. I was. And the way you describe the two sides at the moment, I think West Coast has got one way of playing. And that is, and what they've been training from what I've heard over pre-season is the centre-back turnover, the forward handball. There's 4 teams, the top 4 teams for metres game by handball at the moment are Collingwood, GWS, Gold Coast and West Coast. And they're all from the Hardwick sort of phase. And So that's what they've brought in from a game plan point of view. It's just that there's not a lot of rhythm outside of that. So if they get that going, great. They've got to, West Coast. If they get their clearances, which have got better, if they can start to compete in clearances and get some field position and not rely just on that back half transition, then they get quite competitive. So, they've got one way of playing, and when it works well. When it doesn't work, they get exposed. Geelong have got several ways to play, and I thought the talent gap was pretty big before the game, and I thought McWalter had some really good coaching moves. Obviously, the Jimby-Cameron matchup was interesting because early on, I thought, this could be tough for Ruben, and Cameron decided to stay deep. And up until halfway through the last, it was working really well. I thought some of their players for Geelong, Smith was off the chain, and then they went to the tag. But there were so many players across the line for Geelong that can get the work done. So I thought they managed it really well, West Coast, to the point where that long goal, like you mentioned before, if they had to kick that, it was game on. But in the end, the maturity of the group, and I think both teams walk away happy from this game.
Even if
to a certain degree.
Even if the fact that he missed that goal long, I get it. But it was the ability in transition for Geelong just to whisk it down the other end and get a goal. And that's that sort of 12-point turnaround as it happens. I just want to mention this. Paul from Gold Coast. So thank you, Paul. It's a long read, but he talks about you and your Dimmer's disciples and all that sort of stuff. All duck, no dinner with the West Coast style. Can you please explain when a team plays that style, how do you defend? What is the strategy around defence when you play it?
It's really hard. It's if it's breakneck like it was, and I think what Geelong did was they said, all right, we're going to take you on at the same game, and they just did it better. They connect better in their forward line. So you got to have more to it. So there is more to McWalter's style of play. It's not just that, but at the moment you got to start somewhere, and you can't start with everything. So they've start with, we're doing this. This is different than what you guys. It's different than what I coached. We're going to start this way. There's going to be a bit of pain. There's going to be some turnovers. It's going to be in the wrong player's hands at the wrong time. Flynn was part of the chain every now and then, which wasn't great. But over time, they'll add layers to their game. I thought they could have got a bit more composure from their D50 early. It was just helter-skelter. But, it got them alive. It's exciting to watch. But there needs to be some layers. Like they've only had, we spoke about when you drifted before, about Adelaide having 39 forward half turnovers. 39. West Coast had 8 for the game. So there's a difference there, isn't there, of style. So you want to be a front half side, and that means you've got to win some clearances. So that's some work to do, but from an identity point of view, I think they're tracking the right way. All
righty. We're going to go to a break. Mark Duffield's going to come in and preview his show after 8 o'clock. And don't forget, you can listen to Bunnings Tradio from 3 o'clock in the morning each day on SEN, 5 o'clock Melbourne time, WA, to get your latest tradies, news and sports updates thanks to Bunnings Trade. And we talked about the WA Day black and gold jumper with the eagle on the front for the West Coast Eagles. I thought, and thank you to everyone who's texted in and said, hey, Goss, we'd love to hear the call that you mentioned, how Harley Reid is so invested in being a West Australian.
Oh,
well, you're a liar. Here it is, thanks to Carlos and Tom and to Susan and everyone else and Merv. Let's take a listen as we go to the break. Here's a bit of magic.
Can I text into this show?
You can text all you like, but it might cost you some money, and that's probably an issue. Rightio, here we go.
On Simo and Goss for breakfast. Between the lines.
Just going to stay with us with this one because he also dissects a lot of media press conferences. Where do we go?
We're going to go to Hawthorn. And the build-up's been there a little bit from last week when it was bring your mouth guards, unacceptable, to this game where the tackling was an issue the week before. So let's listen to Sam and just how he's, between the lines, what's his vibe at the moment? What's his attitude?
Asked them actually, just had a bit of a discussion around let it all out, what's going on and where you're at and where are we at and what do you think? And I think it was pretty clear to everyone that was here and those watching at home that we're at this point miles off it. That's what we need to aspire to and above to beat them when it matters, and we've got plenty of work to do.
So when you're underperforming, this is a coachable moment. So when you're trying to get the best out of your list and winning's hard, it's different. But when you go, okay, we're better than this, what's going on? I think it's a good move to ask the players. So this is not uncommon to actually go, right, you guys are going to have a chat. I think I know what's going on, but let's get some feedback. And he would have come back in and on the whiteboard, all right, just drill down on 2 or 3 things we're going to work on during the week. So there's that piece. And then there's waiting for the third loss in a row to give a big bake, which You can absolutely do. I think as experience will go for Sam, it's when you're going well, can you drop the hammer every now and then? So Dennis Pagan used to do it to us all the time. We'd have a 10-goal win and he'd point out 2 or 3 players and he'd be angry. And we'd walk out going, oh, what's going on here? We just won by 10 goals. But it's in the bank for the lapses you don't want to have. You don't want to lose 3 in a row under Dennis.
So after a game like that, would the players go into the theatre that they sit in for the pre-match address and he would already have points written on the whiteboard out of the game? That wouldn't have happened?
No. Okay. He might have put some stats on the board, but I don't think you as soon as you say something, they'll just agree and then that'll be... So you've got to be really careful not to say anything and let them give the feedback. And I was thinking there was a West Coast game we beat. We lost a poor game on the road and then we won the Derby the next week. And we went into the rooms. I said, what was that? What the hell was that? And we'd won by 5 goals. I said, how can we do that and last week do that? And I remember them, Brad Shepherd was looking, I could see him going, what's going on here? But I did it for a reason because I want consistency. And I think that's what Sam's chasing. So
I want to play Dean Cox, so we'll just depart. It goes a bit long. We'll just tap out of it eventually. Have a listen.
It was unacceptable and embarrassing. No, I didn't expect that. On such a massive night for the footy club when you have a 20-year reunion. For a team that played desperate, uncompromising.
There you go. Over the top.
Well, no, it's emotional. He's not catastrophizing. He speaks on how he feels, and the mood of his voice determines a lot, doesn't it? So, yeah.
If that was in Perth, and he said unacceptable and embarrassing, that would be front page news.
Yeah, I think
Sydney gets away with it.
I've actually said that a few times, but he's working through a new team, and injuries are a reason. They're decimated with some of their personnel, but I think he's trying to change the way they play.
Has he, did they need tinkering and he's kind of gone overhaul? McCartan forward, Blakey D.
He's trying to impose himself on this list.
Duff, after 8 o'clock.
Yep.
Thanks to Bunnings Tradio. Simo and Goss on a WA Day long weekend where the Eagles wore the jumper proudly.